Hello and welcome to Code Rhetoric with Tam Talk. This is your host, Tamara Abraham, here to bring you the good, the bad, and not so good conversations about the medical billing and coding industry. So I have here with me today, Joanne McKay, to help me carry on this conversation as it relates to medical coding and billing. Hello, Joanne.
Hi, Tamara. How are you?
I'm fine. So many of you may not know, and we're laughing because I have a select set of coding colleagues or coding experts, as the industry say. You have coding experts in my phone. So Joanne is one of my go-to people, whether it be to pick her brain or just to vent. So what you're getting ready to hear is collectively, at least 40 years of medical billing coding experience in this conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're about to get into it. We're laughing because, this is just our conversation, and I'm actually nervous. Don't know why I'm nervous, but here we are.
I know why. We talk all the time.
I know, right?
Girl,
So,
don't be. This is fun. This is fun. But thank you so much for inviting me, Tamara. As always, it's a pleasure to talk with you, vent, and to also pick your brain. I don't think that many people know that we've worked together, and I've since admired you and your skill and talent. So I thank you so much for inviting me here. As she stated, I am an educator / coder, because I'm always going to be that. So, and I love my job. I've been doing it for over 30 plus years. Started out with billing, then ventured off to coding. So, let's get into it. Which one to shoot at me first?
Let's talk about this. So, my heartburn, because I have several heartburns as it relates to coding. But one of my heartburns is having multiple certifications and not having the experience to back up certifications. So, as my aunt would say.
Do you want me to expound on that?
We're going to expound. As my aunt told me, if you can read, you can code. And, that's been my coding journey ever since. I felt like I could read, so therefore I code. So we may have different opinions about that, or we may be on the same page, but can you expound on your perspective of the many certifications as it relates to coding?
I think that the certifications are good, but they can be at the same time intimidating for some people. I think a lot of times if you get a certification that gives you expertise in your field, people will tend to trust you more to say, okay, if you become a certified auditor, then it's like, okay, I can trust this person to audit my work. But you can say that on surface, but when that person actually does the work, does it reflect their expertise? So I don't have a problem with people getting the actual certifications if it's something that you love. If you're going to get like 30, 40 certifications, I'm going, okay. And it's just me personally. You might not need that. And just like myself, take for instance, I've coded in OBGYN, pediatrics, neurology, neurosurgery, anesthesia. I've done a little bit of ophthalmology. I've done a little pediatrics, a little family practice, internal medicine, general surgery, plastic surgery. I have done pretty much everything. But I'm not running out to get a certification in every single one of those fields because my passion doesn't lead me to do that. So I don't like I said, I don't think that it's a problem. It just, I think, offers more validity to that person's, the subject matter. But, and sometimes people get it, like I said, just to sometimes achieve a goal to say, hey, let me see what I can do. And, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it can be a good thing. It can be intimidating as well.
Yes. Okay. So I agree and disagree. So we can agree to disagree. Okay. So sure. And the reason why I've shared in previous episodes about
our conversations,
in conversations about the certifications, and I guess for me, like I said, I have minimal credentials in coding, but as you mentioned, that hasn't stopped me from coding in other areas of coding. And that could be also because of the number of years I've been in coding. Yeah. And so, and then a lot of the areas that I've coded for or in has been multi-specialty groups or multi-specialty healthcare systems. So that too could be why I'm like, you don't need all of that. You know, you don't need all of that. Or it may be where someone may become a certified professional coder, and because they go out and they look for a job and they're not able to catch a break or what have you. So then they say, well, maybe I'll get a credential in this area of coding because I can't, because I've given up on searching for a role with this credential, I'll get this credential. And then let's say they get that credential and then they still can't find it, then okay, so then I'm gonna go get another credential and so on and so on. And so it may not be that it could be that it may be something else, and I'm not saying that to be insultive or it may not be you, it may be something personally. It may be your personality.
True. That's true.
Coding may not be for you, and that's okay.
Right.
So it may not be for you. I know a lot of certified coders who are not certified coders. I know a lot of certified coders who are not certified coders. And I'll let that sink in. You say that again. I know a lot of certified coders who are not certified coders. And so what I mean by that is we have great test takers out there.
Yes. I was going to chime in and say that. Okay. Yes, because you have people who are book smart that can go in and ace a test. I mean, of course, we know the coding test is open book. So if you're going to ace that test, you're good. You got that certification. But when you get in there, and I actually personally knew someone like that, totally book smart, totally. But the coding skills, I'm like, what? Really? You have all these certifications? And so I just, and I think too, like you said, it could be something else that they're dealing with. So. And a lot of times too, when you hear these commercials, and this is what irks me the most, you hear these commercials come on and say, oh, you can go and get, trained for 6 months and, get a coding job and make $60,000 to $70,000. And I'm like, what? So that's very offensive to me because I have struggled. I've first got into medical field when I was 17, 18 years old. So I've been doing this for a very long time. So for you to sit and say, I'm going to teach somebody 6 months, jam 6 months worth of coding knowledge in you, that covers just like not even a fourth of what's in the field.
Exactly. And that's something
so a lot of people let that money attract them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I share with my students. Like, I'm teaching you or training you to, or prepare you to take the test, and you pass the test. And like I said, the course is not all encompassing of what coding is about, because this is just enough for you to pass the test. But once you get out there, that's when everything's going to be thrown at you. And so, this is just a small glimpse of it, and you still have to learn.
It is.
I haven't given you everything that's pertaining to coding in the course or in the module, whatever I'm offering or serving to them. I'm not giving you everything. This is just the surface. It's like math. You know how it's like you learn how to add, you learn how to subtract, and they start. You build upon. They start throwing letters in here, and then they start throwing formulas, and you're building upon that foundation. So that, to me, that's how I see coding. When you're instructing or teaching coding, I'm teaching you the foundation, but I haven't taught you everything, because you're gonna learn more as you get out there. And so, even like you said, if you're going to a specialty, you still have to learn what the idiosyncrasies of that specialty. And every specialty is not the same. All specialties are not the same. But like my aunt said, if you can read, you can code. Yes, you can read, you can code, but you got to read to code.
That's the most frustrating thing I think that bothers me in this coding world is, you have to read. Reading is powerful, and reading is knowledge. We can't get can't get past the next operative report without reading it. A lot of coders have developed also bad habits. We'll talk about that as well too. But it is about doing the homework. You teach them the fundamentals, but they also have to self-invest. And I think a lot of them think that, oh, now since I have this certification, I'm about to go out here and get this job. It's not that easy. Coding it's a very diverse world, and it's very hard to get into. It is. I mean, I've been doing it for years, but once people get into certain positions, they don't leave them. So it's a privileged position because of what we know. But you also, again, you have to self-invest. You have to do the homework. You have to be willing to do it. You have to be willing to set aside some time after you've worked. It's like homework. Give yourself an hour, give yourself 2 hours to read up on something, a difficult procedure that you were trying to code, something, or the guidelines, because I'm a guideline queen. So, that's key. And I have you to thank for that. So you and, your other colleague, but like I said, that's how we actually learn, to code. You have to know those guidelines. Without them, it's not helpful. So reading is powerful and it's knowledgeable. Like you said, like now I code in different modalities, cardiovascular, thoracic, cardiac, different things. So I have to turn off my brain from one specialty, turn on my brain, open my CPT book up to this particular field that I'm coding in and apply my knowledge there. So it's all about applying that knowledge too. And a lot of them just don't do it.
So let me ask you this, because this brings up a good question. So like I used to be in a leadership role with this group, and I get like when you're in leadership role, you do more leading and less coding. But then there's times when you have to roll up your sleeves and you have to jump in or dive in with coding. Yeah. So do you find that the longer that you're out of actually doing coding, that you become rusty or you tend to forget and you need that moment to like refresh your memory or re-up?
Yes. Okay. Most definitely. Yes, because right now, because I'm in a teaching capacity and my job is to, of course, teach. However, I'm still a coder at heart. So I feel like getting in there and coding, which is what I do honestly every day, because we are we need some extra support in different areas of coding. And Joanne, can you help? And of course, that go-to, I've been like that for years. So yes, I think that you need to, in order to sharpen your skills, because it's going to help you stay abreast of all the changes and different things. Every year, October, there's new changes. And then of course, January 1, 2021, we have different changes. So no, getting in there and rolling up your sleeves is something that a leader should always do. It's cool that you could be a delegator of work, but when you don't see that it's getting done, of course you have to talk to your team, but also too, as being a leader is showing that, hey, I'm a team player. I might have a higher position than you, but I'm still willing to get in there and help you,
And also, because you are a leader, your team members or your followers are going to come to you to seek answers to questions. And it may be, or in this case, specific coding questions. And to me, I just feel like you should either know the answer, you should know how to get the answer, or teach your team or your coders or followers. I don't, we're in this leader follower thing, anyway. Teach them how to do the research, how to find the answers.
That's right.
And so
definitely, that's so important.
This is where I hate to be like the old school coders versus the new school coders. The old school coders, we didn't have all this technology and access to tools and resources that the new coders have today. I don't think I may be aged, but I don't even recall Google. Maybe it was out there. But anyway, I don't recall Google. So we had to research. And I had one colleague who used to reference it as dumpster diving. Well, we have to dive into dumpster to research to find the information that we needed in order to do our job correctly. Coders today have access to everything.
Yeah. At their fingertips. You can, they have, I call them babysitter tools. And enablers, in a sense. Okay, Encoder Pro, okay, fine. Supercoder, okay, fine. Find a code, those are different, coding tools, CAC tools. Some of them, they're great when you don't have the books. However, yeah, I'm old school. I'll give my age. I don't care. I grew up doing ICD 9, CPT 4. So, this isn't lost on me. I just know to find that information, I'm used to my CPT book. I don't mind using Encoder Pro, but that's computerized. And also you got to think humans put that information in. So sometimes they can miss some information. They can miss something. So your book may have the the information that you need, but I think a lot of these coders too are spoiled. I had one young lady I knew that worked at this particular place. Their computer systems went down and they couldn't code. I was like, okay, so you guys didn't use a CPT book?
Exactly.
They sent them home. I said, I about hit the floor. I said, wait a minute. You had to go home. Y'all, that was just beyond me. I had never heard anything like that in my life. And I was like, are you lying?
Wow.
We had to go home. Wait, what? So you guys could pull out a book? I mean, and two, I tested this person to ask them to find a specific information in the index. She couldn't do it. And I was floored. I was like, wow. So if you're using a computer, but you don't know how to use a CPT book, then baby, you don't need to be in this field. I'm sorry. Because no, you can't look up in the index. No, bye. You might need to go fold clothes at the Gap somewhere. I don't know. But if you can't look in the index, I'm just saying, look in the index. But I think it upsets me so much because I've worked so hard and I know it can be done. So I'm looking, if I've done it, if I've scrapped, and crawl through the mud to get to where I am now. I know everybody else is capable of doing it, but also too, I think what coders do lack is passion. I don't care. You have to have, and we talked about this last time too, a passion is something big for me because when you have a passion for something, you don't get tired of doing it. I can read, I can do work, and unfortunately, one of the bad things about working at home is that you end up working more than you're actually doing regular life stuff. So I have to learn how to tear myself away from it, but I'm always finding something. Girl, let me get a new coding book. Girl, I'm like, oh my God, I was so excited. And then I just ordered a coding book again today. I was like, so when I get them, it's like Christmas to me. So it's because I'm thinking, how can I, retain this knowledge and then help someone else? So that's the thing too.
I'm laughing at you because I recall you and I had another friend, a coding colleague, who and I laughed like you called me one weekend and you were like, okay, you were running an errand. You said, but check this out. I have this book and this coding book, and I was reading through it. So let me ask you something. I'm like, how you always doing? And you took the coding book with you, And then I had another colleague was reading the code book like it was the Bible. Like
you do. I swear. Girl, yes, and I told you I ordered that ICD-10 PCS book from the coding clinic, and I bought that book, and I was so mad because like when I got it, I wasn't able to like go through it like I really wanted to. So I was so excited after I got off of work, and I was like, oh my goodness, girl, I got in the bed, I read 7 chapters just that quick. I was like, oh my God. So it's just the reading because it's like I think of things or some coding scenarios at work, and I'm like, and it's so on my brain all the time. And it's like, sometimes I want to get out of my own head. I'm like, you know what, Joanne, step outside of your own head. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to do that, but go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It has to make, you have to, for me, I have to make it make sense.
Yes.
In the realm of coding and medicine. It has to make sense. Like,
yes,
what I mean by it has to make sense. Like, I know if a doctor orders, I'm going to say EKG, for example, and the patient has a plethora of or multiple diagnoses, I know I'm not going to put a hangnail with an EKG because why would a doctor perform an EKG for a hangnail? So it has to make sense.
Right.
And
Yes.
That's why you have to reread in this fundamental riff. So
Right. And that's when my brain kicks in. And you said something very important. The diagnosis has to match the procedure. That's when the biller part of me comes in, because when I first started at my current employer, I was told, well, you have to turn off your billing hat. I said, no. That's a no. Don't ever tell me to do that, because I've been doing it for so long, because people don't understand coding and billing go hand in hand. It's just billing, you're performing one aspect. You're starting from start to finish. You're actually filing that claim, putting in the CPT and ICD-10 codes. You're submitting that claim to the carrier. You're waiting for that payment to come back. You're doing the actual accounts payable, actually the entering the payment, posting the payment. You're sending out the statement. You're doing the whole gamut. Whereas coding, you're only doing the clinical part as far as the diagnosis and CPT, and making sure that they match the operative report or the office note that you're coding that E&M for. Now, a lot of the coders too would just, like I said, they have into this mentality. It's a piece of paper. That's what they're looking at. But what you're looking at is like a roadmap. And I always tell them, look at your work differently. Look at it differently. Think about it as if it was your paper, your child, or you, and what you're putting on there. Because what you put on is going to affect that patient's medical record for the rest of their life. So you have to be careful what you put in that record and what you put on there. I had a coder do the same thing. The doctor... It brought me to my girl, code and radiology. To me, simple radiology is so simple, but for some people it's not. The doctor did an x-ray of the left foot or something. Let me just throw that out there. But the diagnosis the coder used was uterine pain. Yeah, because the indication was, pain in it had the first diagnosis, like pelvic pain, and then it had foot pain, but it was an actual radiology report that indicated that patient had an injury to the foot. But the first diagnosis said pelvic pain, then it says pain in the left foot. So the coder put pelvic pain primary, and of course the secondary diagnosis she put as left foot pain. So, of course, it got denied because the payer said the CPT, the ICD-10 and CPT code do not match. So when I sent it back to the coder to look at and review, so, this is denied. It got, for the reason. But the first diagnosis said pelvic pain. I said, okay, let's look at this. So you mean tell me, so you're going to do an x-ray of your pelvic is not your foot. And when I said that, it was like, and I think sometimes they don't use common sense. And I don't mean to disparage anybody at all. But if I'm looking at this, if the x-ray is of the foot, I am not going to pin pelvic pain on there. I don't care, because it's irrelevant. There's some things that you don't pick up.
It's almost like you have to use common sense with coding.
That's exactly what I said.
I think we're making it sound more complex, or making it more complex than it really is. It's coding, and I think we're confusing coding with coding, as in the technology or the IT aspect of coding, and no, we're doing healthcare coding, not IT coding. I mean, it's on the computer, but we're doing coding.
But that's their mindset, and it's hard to get them out of that. And then I try and I was like, make it make sense, like you said earlier. It has to make sense, because if you're going in, if I'm telling you my leg is hurting, and you put on there, okay, and of course the doctor's going to do a workup and say, have you had any pain in the other areas? Well, yeah, I've been having this pelvic pain. Okay, he says, well, I'm going to go ahead and do a workup and order you an x-ray on your foot. Not to see if it was an ultrasound for the pelvic pain, but it wasn't. It clearly wasn't. It was a left foot pain and then pelvic pain. I'll never forget that, or it was some other pain, and it was totally unrelated. So when I said to her, can you look at this for me, please? And her comeback was, well, it was the first diagnosis. And I'm going, adios mio. I'm like, okay. So, I just was like, okay, so you have to breathe. And then you have to refrain from using explicitives, because it's like, you want to punch something, but it's like, how can you actually call yourself a coder if you're not really looking at this? So what they're doing is just looking. you know, they're looking, and I think that working too fast, which is what we'll get into next, I guess, when you want to talk about is this, the sweatshop thing.
You know, yes, you know, I am like good segue, because you know that's my other heartburn. If all the heartburns, that's my heartburn. That's gonna be the thing that like take me out of coding. The timers, the clocks, the stopwatches.
Girl, I fell over when you sent me. I still have.
Honey. Okay, so we're talking about productivity versus quality coding, and
yes,
Joanne has coined the term. I'm gonna let you say it.
Sweatshop coding.
Sweatshop coding. Yes. I have succumbed to the sweatshop coding reality. Because I am looking at the clock and I'm speed reading against the clock.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God. So have we thrown quality out of the window? Like quality went out the window down the road. It got hit by the truck that was coming up behind me.
It did. It died. It did. It seems though, because I think we're in the era where everything is just moving so fast. And I understand that there has to be a number put to things so that you can account for the productivity of the worker. I get that. I get it. However, when you're coding and you're looking at a clock, that's stressful. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't care. It is extremely stressful when you're having to code, you know, how many E&Ms per hour. And of course, all the elements that you have to count. So you're telling me, for instance, I have to code 8 per hour. Okay. So you take 8 divided by 60. That's like 12, like 10 minutes, 10, 12, 9 minutes per case or whatever, 8 minutes or whatever. So you're going, okay, I have to time myself on this. So if you're timing yourself and you're working it just right, but I think that too, bonuses also drive that as well, because when that's an incentive for people to work faster. And then that's where the mistakes come in, and that's where quality goes out of the window. So my biggest thing is I don't mind the incentives. I wouldn't tell them about it because that's going to be why people are driven to do the things that they do. Case in point, previous employer, you know, would have these awesome bonuses. And then, you know, of course, everybody's pushing out, you know, 128% quality, and then 98%, that's quote unquote what the auditor caught. But then when you're actually doing the forensics auditing of it, you're breaking it down. It's like, nope, this was wrong. This was wrong. Okay, they didn't deserve that bonus. They actually failed their audit. So it's a plethora. It's a combination of a lot of things. But this sweatshop coding thing, it drives me insane. I just, because when we were talking, it was like, oh my God, it's like sweatshop coding, because when you just close your mind and you think about people being in some factory and they're just pegging away at the computer, that's what it reminds me of. I had one of my coders tell me that she timed herself on this particular work queue that she works in, because they have to do 42 cases per hour. And I already know, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a fast coder, but I'm very thorough. Even 42 an hour would stress me out. So what I did is I took that and divided it into 60 minutes, and I said that's 1 minute 42 seconds. That's not enough. That's not enough. That's not enough time. Yes, when you break that down per chart. So and I don't care if it's simple radiology coding, because they actually come over pre-coded, but you have to validate them. But guess what? The engine is only going to pick up what's dictated to it. And if the engine doesn't pick up the correct diagnoses, then what you have to do is you have to correct it. And of course, you go to Google and type in ICD-10 code for, you know, distal left proximal fracture of the, you know, metatarsal of the right hand, you know, or the right baby toe, whatever. You have to put all that in there. You can't go just throw into your book, because you're on a timer and your heart is beating, your palms are sweaty, you feel like you're about to pass out. She says, you know, I put on my timer and my heart rate jumped up. I didn't mean to laugh. I said, bless your heart. But what I did, I said, you know, that takes and then here's the bad part, because they're messing up. And guess who work queue it comes to? Me. So in actuality, you're paying 2 people to code one chart You know, so no, we got to learn how to work smart. So I was like, you know, we need to talk about this, you know, the number of charts that they code per hour in this work queue, because it's too much. It is too much. You guys do not understand the roller coaster, the merry-go-round. They're working it, but it's coming back to me, and I'm actually doing their work. No, we got to learn to work smart. But yes, I think the quality has all but left out of it, and they're focusing on just pushing, and I don't like that. It takes away the skill set of the coder, and it puts a lot of stress on them, and then it can shake their confidence. It can shake their confidence greatly, and I don't like that.
They say mine was shaking. I ain't gonna lie. Look, I was like, okay, hold on now. Ooh, child, look, we want to pause this timer because hold on.
Yes.
Look, I need to pause this timer because what? And Lord, and then you doing some code changes, honey. Let me tell you something. Some code changes.
Yes. Think about that.
Look at here.
Yes.
Do we?
Yes.
I say because like I say, we are coders. Have time to. Well, I guess that's when we have to study the guidelines and the changes off, like outside of the productivity. Yes. World or whatever. But
marking your book, I think marking your books too is important, and also to an Encoder Pro. If you're using that engine, you can actually put your notes in there and things like that. But like you said about code changing, I'll go back to that. Say if you got a chart and you look and it's the X-ray is of the foot, but of the hand, but the doctor dictated foot. So of course, you know, you have to make sure you have to query the provider. You have to stop what you're doing, query that. Okay, pass that chart on. Your next chart comes up and it's like, okay, the diagnosis is incorrect. It's unsure. You have to read the findings to get more detailed information, because of course the goal of ICD-10 is to code to the highest level of specificity. So that coder has to find the exact code in order for that claim not to be denied. But the more times than not, they're going to go ahead with the unspecified diagnoses, and we know that that's going to get kicked out. And then if you have to God forbid, if you have more than 2 CPT codes, and ICD-10 codes, because guess what? They're going to have to put it into Encoder Pro, because you're going to have to look for what? Excludes 1 and excludes 2. And then you got to look for bundling. So if it bundles, you're going to have to make sure, okay, well, can these be done at the same time? Of course, you go into me reading Modifier 59 guidelines, then you have to go to NCCI and to procedure. There's so many different steps that people are not thinking about. And a lot of times I had one coder tell, I had a girl, sometimes people, when they tell me stuff, I'm like, don't tell me that. Because, you know, I'm like, I do. I'm like, sometimes keep stuff like that to yourself, because I don't want to know, because I'm sitting here thinking I'm giving you, you know, a deer in the headlamp look. I was told to put a modifier 59 on and just let it go. Wait, what?
What?
And I question everything, because guess what? When someone tells you to do something, their levy is that, well, this educator, this auditor told me to do it, but you didn't think for yourself, because we're not all experts. I'm sorry, I've been an auditor before I was an educator, so we're not experts, because I always tell people that brings about audit the auditor, question them, question us. I don't care, but I put a modifier 59 on it, and I said, and it came back denied, because and guess what? What's funny is when you put it in Encoder Pro and you look all the way over to the right, guess what it says? Modifier not allowed. But you put a modifier on there anyway. How jacked up are you?
But you know, that's like, that's the time, that goes back to that whole reading thing, because, and I'm gonna tie this into social media, you know, because people don't read. Like I posted something, and I had a piece of paper. It was like, I completed physical therapy. And so I said, I completed, or I graduated from physical therapy. Now, you know good well, I did not go to physical therapy school or training or whatever.
Right.
People are congratulating me on physical therapy. And
wow.
I'm like, okay, really? What? Okay, all right. So then
when did I go to physical therapy school?
Then I started scrolling, and another encounter, I scrolled where someone said they were going out to celebrate someone's birthday. People were wishing this person happy birthday. I knew when their birthday was, so I chuckled at the comments of people just say happy birthday. And I, you know me, I'm like, girl, is it our birthday already? as you like, our birthday is this time. I'm like, okay, I just
such and such day, right?
People don't read, or they half read, and so so we're gonna bring it back to code. The same thing. We may, like for example, if we're in a particular specialty, right, and I'm gonna say repetitive procedures, repetitive services, and so we automatically assume it's going to be the same code. Or a case where the 59 may have been applicable in that scenario, but it may not be applicable in this scenario. And so you have to read. I don't care. People don't want to read thoroughly. How about that? People don't want to read.
That's right.
Because even before I even started, I was coaching, before I became a government coacher, before I had a government name. People were asking, like, how can I code a surgical case without reading the actual op report? You can't code surgery if you don't read the operative report. I need some shortcuts. I need a shortcut. How can I shortcut this?
You know what their shortcuts are, right? You do know, right?
They just want the answer. Right?
Okay, no, that too, but I'm gonna tell you where the shortcut is. What's the first thing you see when you look at an operative report? You see preoperative diagnosis, postoperative diagnosis, pre-procedure, post-procedure. The procedure title. I had a coder tell me, I said, so when you're coding, do you read your op notes? She said, sometimes. I told you, people need not tell me stuff like that, because I said, baby, don't tell anybody else what you just told me, okay? Don't do that. I said, because you're supposed to read, because that's the meat and potatoes. What you're getting is an hors d'oeuvre, or the entree before the meal. And the actual op report is the actual meal itself. So you have to read, because if that doctor says, I'm going in to do a laparoscopic appendectomy, but he goes in there and you code 44970, like, but then I'm going to audit your chart. And I'm looking at it. It said lap in the top, but then when they went down in there, they decided to go open. So you just missed it. And then I don't want to hear, because I always hear, well, that's not fair. No, it is fair, because I read the op note, but you didn't.
And the doctor didn't. And the doctor actually documented it correctly, and he just missed it. And that's where it's like, just because you see, in the title, laparoscopic appendectomy, doesn't mean all of the laparoscopic appendectomies are going to be laparoscopic appendectomies. They could have gone in there and done something that they may have found something that they didn't even plan on seeing, and that changed the whole scope of the surgery, and they had to do more work, or they had to do something, or it delayed, or they went above and beyond. And then that's when those little modifier thingies come into play. Them thingies that we add on to the codes that may change, how to code what took place. People, and that's why you have to read. One of the things I think you and I, we both do this. We take the op notes and we highlight it, we color code it, we bold it, we dissect the op note to ensure that we're capturing everything that surgeon had, I guess, performed or done. And then we run it through the edits. We know, okay, okay, here's coding, I call it 100, 101, the endoscopy. If I look and all I do is look, okay, I can code it. But if I look and I decide to do something in there, that look is included, and that's something else I decide to do.
Oh God, oh my God, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. That's another thing that drives me wild. You talking about something drive you wild? So it's like basic surgery coding knowledge is just missing, because not everything that provider does, that they're going to get reimbursed for, unfortunately. But a lot of coders think that I'm going to code every single solitary thing that this doctor did, but then you have to apply common sense. You have to apply knowledge that if that doctor is working on the same organ, he's going down and something else is going on that same organ. It's not a separate procedure. We've had huge issues with that with our neurosurgery department. It's just, why are you picking up two primary procedures when the access point to the brain is just one code, and it's encompassed in that? And I don't get it. And there's no excuse or no defense for not reading it. I get that a lot. The errors that I see, and I can tell the trends that you're not reading your guidelines. Well, how do you know? Well, because this claim got denied and clearly you overlooked something in the op note and you didn't run it through Encoder Pro, or you did not look in your book. You didn't look in your CPC guidance. Like, they'll build a diagnostic endoscopy endoscope procedure with a surgical one. You can't, because once they go in there and look, that's fine. If they go in and look, that's it. But if they go in and go beyond looking, why are you going to put two codes together? Why? Why? Who does that? Who does that?
It's included. It is included.
And when you show it to them, they give you the deer in the headlamp look and say, well, can this be counted as education? No. I don't have a soft spot for that, because that's something you should know. They have the blame game. They blame the auditor. They blame the educator. And that's where I was at one point. That had me rethinking my career, thinking I need to go pick up cans or something, because I'm sitting here going, no, because they'll use you as an excuse. And that, unfortunately, that behavior has been enabled, by the previous administration, because they're so coddled. You want a guideline? You want a guideline as an education? Absolutely not. No, because this is something that you should know. You got this job coding, and you said you knew your guidelines when you took that test. However, here's what they should do. It's hilarious. Now, these CPC exams are geared to just their open book. They need to have one. They have the one for ICD-10, but they need to have one specifically on the guidelines. And see how many people pass that test, because I don't know. It's not that hard. It's just reading. It's reading. And then people are confusing the guidelines. Girls, like, they turn the guidelines and want to make it to their, change the definition to something. So I'm like, oh my God. So that is our biggest thing in the coding world. People do not read. They don't read. They just want to move. And that's, like I said, that's where this sweatshop mentality comes in. We've got to get it out. We got to get it out. And I just be wondering, like, you know what? Hashtag sweatshop coding. It's ridiculous. And I understand, but I think that you should give people a comparable level of number of cases that they could code per hour comfortably, where they're still getting quality work, the doctors are being reimbursed properly, and the coding is being coded, it's being done right. So I think it would take a level of stress off of them as well, because it can take a physical and emotional toll on you. You're sitting here stressing, you're losing here, getting alopecia. All that stuff encompasses heart problems. It's a lot. It's stressful, and it can weigh on your marital life if you're married, and a parent if you're raising children. So it's a lot that is encompassed in that. So we take on a lot when we've gotten into this field, and I didn't realize it was going to be this humongous. Yes, I did not think it was going to be like this. I mean, I knew that getting into the field, you learn so much, and I absorb that information. But we also have to learn self-discipline too. We have to, when we look at that chart, we have to exercise that self-discipline and say, you know what, I'm looking at this chart, and I have to do 7-8 cases per hour, or in our case, 6 surgeries per hour. So that's 10 minutes per surgery. So I know if I'm 7 minutes into this case and I still haven't coded it correctly, or still haven't came to a code, let me pre-code it. Let me set it to the side. Let me go. Because sometimes the second look will your brain will turn on. It will. But when you're doing so much, everything is just jammed in there. You don't have time to stop. You don't have time to think. You don't have time to breathe. And they need to, and that's what they're missing. They don't do that. We've gotten these devices to tell you to get up and go get a drink of water, to go stretch, but you have to be able to sometimes do that. And I listened to your previous talk the other day about getting up and getting away. And I've learned to do that, because I can sit at my computer, unfortunately, for hours, and I know that that's not good. So I have to learn how to do that, come back, regroup, and say, okay, let me try this again.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I had a couple other questions too. But I believe a non-coder created this the sweatshop coding productivity goal parameter or whatever.
Let me find out who that person is.
I know,
have to
right?
have a
like,
talk.
Get out. If you're not coding, stay out of it. I'm just playing. But,
yes.
Another reason why people, I guess, segue into like the whole wellness aspect of it and some of the things that could come out of it. Do you think a lot of people get into it because it's remote?
Yes.
And it's like, if I'm remote, it's out of sight, out of mind. They can't track me. They don't know. I could act like I'm coding, get paid while I'm, brushing my child's hair or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there. So do you think, well, you said yes, a lot of people get into it because of the remote aspect, and then
it's convenient for them, and they think it's like you said. I've been working off and on from home. I want to say about almost 20 years, off and on 20 years. So I've learned how to discipline myself, but I also know too that when you're working from home, you have to produce more. When I worked for a previous health insurance company here in Georgia, and working from home, I had to sign a contract, and that contract said, okay, while you're working in the office, you produce 100%, but when you go home, you have to produce 150%. You have to work just as hard. So my goal was to make sure that I kept my environment free. My kids, luckily, were already gone and grown up and out of the house. So it's just me. So no TV for me. I rarely turn on the TV unless it's something I would really want to watch. If it's a, political channel or something like that, I may watch it. But I had to get up. Like my office was my job, like my home was my job. And I'm like, okay, I'm at work. I have to ignore the phone conversations. Look, I'm home. You can't just sit on the phone and be kikiing up with your stories and your bonbons and No,
giving
you have
people
to
all
be
these
focused.
diagnoses they ain't even have,
So you can be easily distracted. And two, remote is good, but you have to be disciplined. Like me, and I don't say that I'm an exception, but I am extremely disciplined because I've been doing it, but I had to teach myself this is my job, but I also have to produce more. And there are ways of tracking the work, because I did have one of my friends was actually working a whole full-time job, a whole ass job.
Wow.
And then coming back and getting on the system. And then they finally was like, okay, so this person is, during the day, his light is on, and he's coming home and then he started working like 3:00 in the afternoon and not finishing until 11. What's going on here? So they had to track that, because he was getting 2 whole paychecks, girl. And it was like, what? So you're always going to have that bad apple that's going to do something. That's going to mess it up for everybody. Yes.
Wow.
So yes, they do. You did bring up a good point. People get into it for the convenience of it all, but then you don't understand. You have to work just as hard to be at home. And you have to produce more, because guess what? You're saving on gas, you're saving on food, you're saving on stress of sitting in traffic. It's supposed to give you a better overall health, better your health. But people too, the first thing they say, I'm going to work from home. It's not as easy as you think. We know that. We know that it's not as easy as you think. You might think it's okay. Yes, we know. So guess what? It's not that easy, but watch yourself, pace yourself. It's so weird, because it's so funny, because I love what I do, and I can tell you it just shows. I get emails like, Joanne, it's such a pleasure working with you, but I'm in a remote environment, because my goal is trying to make your job a little bit easier and my job as well. So they know that my boss is like, look, I'm gonna need for you to stop sending emails at 11 o'clock at night. I'm gonna need you to get out the system, Joanne. You're a very hard worker, blah blah blah. Yeah, I know. It's just and I'm like, this is my thought process. Okay, it helps me save money, because I'm not out spending money. Because if I go outside, guarantee you, if I go outside and go to the store somewhere, I'll be spending a bunch of money. No, So I would rather be sitting here trying to learn something, but I give myself a break. So I've had to learn self-care. And I think that that's, you know, is very, very important. But yes, this field can draw people because they think it's so easy. Oh, I'm going to get a contract with a doctor. I'm working home. It's not that easy because things have changed because of the HIPAA laws and, you know, people getting their information stolen. And, you know, there's so many different things that you have to gain the trust of that provider. You have to know, he has to know, you know, what to do to get his money in, because of course, you know, now with the new E&M changes that are coming, some of their, you know, their revenue is going to be cut. The RVUs are going to be a little bit lower, you know? So they're taking a hit too. So I think we have to look at every aspect of it, and people just look at it, to me, the selfish aspect that I get to work from home. Right. When you're working from home, are you really doing the work? That's the question.
Exactly. And so we're not saying this, we're not having this conversation to discourage anybody from
not at all.
We just giving you the real deal, like what it is, like say the real deal. This is what it is. It is. To me, the only great part about the remote coding or working, I don't say remote coding, we're working remote is when you get up and you don't have to drive in, or when you get off, you don't have to drive home. You can, you know, so that's to me, if you live in Atlanta,
it is.
That's the beauty of working remote. You don't have to, you know, and then like, I know it was one time, it was like Thanksgiving break or something, holiday or something like that. And it felt good. Like if you party hard, like the night before, you know, whatever holidays. Right. It felt good to just get up, you know, and go down the hallway versus having to get all dressed up and have to drive, sit in traffic and go and sit. But then I will say, it did feel good when I lived in Atlanta. You know, it did feel good in the morning, and I ain't saying this was all the time. Because you know we were remote, but it did feel good every now and then to get out, to drive into the office and
it does
with your colleagues. It did. I say every day. But you know, it did feel good at times, and so
I agree. I agree with that.
But like you said, it does save money. You know, if you're a parent, you have kids, that, you know, it's beneficial for you because you don't have to worry about like you're home when your children get out of school, or you're there to make sure that they get to school safely. And it's really good, I guess, during the summer, you know.
Right. But it is.
But it also requires a discipline.
Yeah, that's the number one thing.
It requires things. Like we could talk about, like I say, we can talk about the guidelines because the guidelines are important. We can talk about codes and stuff, but we also can talk about those other skills that you will need in order to be successful, and not just with coding, but just with any remote
life in general, in any remote field, because a lot of times we're blessed in that we have 100% remote now. You know, before it was part and part, that if you have to go into the office for a certain amount of time or whatever. So, but we're blessed to have that. And I think too, I'm just extremely grateful. And I'm glad you brought up that point, because you don't want to discourage anyone, but you want to let them know that, hey, this is what we deal with. This is what we've been doing. So take that advice, you know, and listen, and then just think about it heavily, because it's a lot on you. It's a lot on us when we have to, you know, work from home, because there's so much for accountability that we have to account for. And, you know, when we're asked to go into the office, I don't mind going. I was asked a question about that when I took this position, that if you were to be asked to come into the office, would you have a problem? I'm like, no, why would you ask me that? Well, because before we've asked someone that and they had a problem, whatever. And I was like, okay, but everybody's different. You don't know what that person may have had, but I just was like, okay, but no, I wouldn't have a problem doing it at all. So no, but very grateful, very blessed in that we are able to work from home. But I say that to say discipline is something that we have to practice. I've actually started doing meditation every day. I really did, because some things were just really getting a little bit over my head. When I use the Calm app, and I really suggest people to really use it. And I'm not trying to promote it in any way, shape, or form or plug it, but it's really great because it's teaching me self-discipline, how to deal with things. I do my breathing exercises, and right now I'm listening to LeBron James's talk on self-motivating mental fitness. So, and it's really good. So and I really encourage people to start doing that self-care for themselves, but just don't take it for granted. Self-invest, do whatever you can do to help better your skills. But it's an interesting world, and I love what I do. I don't have any other words for it. And one of my friends said, "Is that all you talk about?" I'm like, "I'm sorry. Gosh, dog,
Stimulating conversation. It's good. And it has its own language, I need to get off of social media. I really need to do a detox, because everything I'm relating it back to social media.
But it's okay. That's the world we live in. I mean, seriously, it's the world we live in.
Exactly. So I could put something that's coding, something that is, I could put like a code up, or I could put something that's coding lingo, and everyone else may not get it, but a coder knows what I'm talking about. And they can relate. You know what I'm saying? They may put that laughing emoji or whatever. They can relate, or they may drop a code in a comment, like to have that conversation through codes, because we're our own little community.
We have our own way of communicating. And no, social media is good for that coding too, because there's so many different diverse opinions. And the one thing I do like I'll call you, you know me, I'm like, "Hey girl, what's up? How you doing?" So look, I have a question. That's my, so I have this coded scenario, XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. So, I'm picking your brain because, the shoes I had to fill were yours. So that's why I'm always like, wow, great shoes I filled, because you learn from that greatness. And it's always so much to learn. I don't care. I learn from everybody. I don't care what you know or what you don't know. I'm going to learn, period. And we're here to teach each other. And that's the one thing I love about this field. And I think being in the capacity of an educator, it's challenging. It's something I never thought. Like I said, girl, I was sitting here I was having moments where I was like, you know what? I might need to either jump off a bridge, go pick up some cans of cell aluminum foil, not do all that drastic, but I'm just saying, golly, because, it just made me rethink myself. I'm like, it can be draining. People can drain you. And I says, gosh, I'd rather go back to teach. I'd rather teach kids than teach adults. Because, you have somebody who's just stubborn. And it's like, gosh, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help you. Yes. So, but it's a challenging career, and I love it.
Yeah, you have to love it. You see, we've improving our self-care. Joanne is meditating now. And I'm
definitely.
And I'm hitting up the spa center quite frequently. Because of coding. But I do the gym. I've always worked out. I'm a gym rat, so I'm definitely gonna hit the gym. But when I'm home here, I have my Calm app, and it's like when I feel like I need a moment of zen, I'm gonna punch that in and start listening to some water trickle over a brook or a storm or something, so I could breathe. Hey, breathe and hold your breath. So I'm doing all that so I can center it back on me, and I'm like, okay. So you have to start doing some things for you that's going to help you move further. So exactly. And so the good thing too that you brought up, or I guess we both brought up, we have contacts. We have people we can contact to throw stuff against the wall, like you said, pick brains, vent. And I think sometimes when we're working remote, we feel like we don't have that access to those individuals. Like I said, I have you, I have Angie. Shout out to Angie B, the coder. I'm
going to share her link too. Yeah.
And so I got to plug her too, because I know there were times where a question was posed, and I'm like, okay. I don't want to say I was being lazy. I think I did look a little bit, research a little bit, but I was like, I have to go to my go-to people to find out, hey, what you know about this, or it could be something a specialty. Like I know you all over the place in regards to specialties, but I know plastic surgery has your heart too. So is it someone asks a question about plastic surgery? Help, never fear. I got somebody. Look, I got you. So you know, I'm like, okay, let me call Joanne. Like, look, somebody asks about plastic surgery, or be whatever the case may be, or somebody else like as you say, the E&M guidelines. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, Angie, you know what I'm saying? And I have some other individuals that I'm able to contact as well to pick their brains, or they pick my brains to vent, like, oh my God, did you see this? Let me tell you about this. But it's important that you have that, I won't say that camaraderie, but you have those go-to people in your corner or in your circle that you can reach out to, like you said, to bounce questions off, to pick their brains. Because sometimes I may be thinking this one way and I could be totally off base.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Totally off base.
Yeah.
And then I'm out here trying to coach somebody. I'm out here trying to coach somebody and child coaching them incorrectly. Look,
but you know what? It's not that you're coaching them incorrectly. It's just that we look at information differently. We can all take one op note, and I guarantee you, everybody else is not going to come up with the same code. And that's almost a given. Somebody's going to come up with something a little different. And if you come up with something in the neighborhood, it's like, okay, at least we're on the same thought wave. But yes, it is good to have those people out there, those contacts, to know that you're not alone. That yes, you can ask the person this, you can call them about that, and it's like, yes, you have a safety net. You have to have that net. You got to.
I so agree.
So
I think let's see what else I want to get off my chest, because I think, well, you have anything else you want to get off your chest that relates to code industry?
You said, let me see what I can get off my chest. No, one more thing. Yes, one thing I would say is just it's commitment, and I'm not going to try and go on too long, because I think a lot of people aren't committed to doing the work, and they want the fast answers. But you have to stop and you have to take time. If you're looking at an operative report and there is something in there that doesn't make sense to you, why not just take the time to look it up? I get the dumbest of questions. Well, okay, I don't say there's no such thing as a silly question. The only silly question is the one that hasn't been asked. So ask a question, but if it's something that's blatant in your face, like I set an education time for yesterday for 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I had a person email me, what time does education start? It's for one, it's in the title of the email. Number two, it's in the body of the email. You didn't read. Something as simple as that. Well, what time does education start? It says 10 to 11. It's 1 hour. And you turn around an email and ask me that question. It's like, that's what bothers me so much. So again, it's just going back to just reading, just thoroughly reading, because if you miss it, you are going to miss it. And then you're missing an opportunity to teach yourself something, because the more you know, it's going to help you grow, and it's going to help you venture out and say, you know what, and then it's going to build your confidence. That's what I think too, coders, and we didn't touch on this, the confidence that they will end up losing when they're coding. They're shaky. They may ask a question, and okay, I'm going to put you in the direction, but I'm not going to tell you. Telling you is not helping you. Point you in the direction, because I want to give you the tools and the information that you need. So if you're looking at an operative report and the doctor says, I open up this patient's, parotid gland, and next to the Stenson's duct and blah, 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 blah. So it's like that didn't give you pause, and I try and give them little tips to help them. It's like, okay, Stenson's duct. That's a name that should trigger you. That should be significant to you. So I teach them those little things. Bovie cautery. We know that that's a hot cutting tip, type of tool. Those are things I says, hey, I gave them history on who the person was who created William Bovie. So I try and give them a little history lesson when I'm educating. So it helps build their confidence. So that way they'll know, I'm not alone in this. I'm not alone. I have somebody who's cheering me on, but also too, I'm not going to tell you the answer, because coders will do this. If this first thing they'll say, let it get picked for audit, because that's happened to me. I've had coders throw me under the bus. I have tattoos of tire tracks on my butt, because it's like, I'm giving you the direction, or I've looked at the case, But the payer brought it back and said, hey, can you look at X, Y, and Z? So I asked the coder, hey, can you look at this case? The first thing I got, well, this is the one you helped me on, blah, blah, blah. The time you took to go find an email and give it back to me to tell me this is the one we looked at, I needed you to just look at the case, because guess what they were only asking for? Was a modifier 51. That was it, because this particular payer requires an additional multiple procedure modifier. I said, hey, review this case and look at it below. She didn't read at all. She just automatically assumed that there was something so wrong, and she just threw it out. So she does that on a constant basis. So now she's made me to the point where I don't want to help you. And I don't like getting that way, because I could be selfish like that, and I could be petty too. But I was like, you know what? I really don't want to deal with that, because right now I'm asking you to take responsibility as a coder. Have confidence in what we looked at. Have confidence in that work to know, okay, Joanne did help me, but she didn't give me the answer, but she drove me in the right direction, and she gave me the tools I need. But no, you're not doing it. You're steady finger pointing. And that's what gets on my last nerve. Don't finger point at me. Don't do it.
So this is something that I hear a lot. Well, I guess for me too. If you're gonna ask me a question, especially as it relates to coding, I need to know what you did before you came to me in regards to what research did you conduct. What are the codes you think may be the right answer? Because I want to know that you actually did some work, or you thought about this before you came to me.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Like I don't say my time is valuable. You know, so
yes.
And it's like 100 of y'all that I, you know, so it's like.
I'll remember that. Oh my God, the emails you were getting.
Girl, that's another episode.
That's another talk. That's another episode. That's terrible though.
And so what have you done to research the answer for this?
Right.
You may be right. You may be absolutely right in your research or rationale, or you may be absolutely wrong. And that's okay, because if you're wrong, guess what? You just learned something new.
That's right.
And
That's
so,
right. That's right.
And like you said, with the auditing, with the, you know, because me, like, I could be wrong. You know, I'm auditing based on my knowledge. I'm auditing based on my, like, I would say my perception or my
and the documentation in front of you. That's right.
So you may come back and say, well, this is what I look at, or this is what I saw, and this is based upon the guidelines or whatever, you know. And then I look at, okay, you know what? I didn't look at it that way. That's absolutely right. Because not only did you gave me your perspective, you gave me literature or a source to confirm why you coded the way that you coded, you know? Right. So like I shared with you, when I audit, okay, I'm going to audit from my perspective, but then if we come up with something different, then I'm trying to get into the mindset of the coder to figure out what would make them select that code. You know, what would make them select that? Oh, they went that route. Why? And then if I can't, you have to explain to me after you get these results as to why you came up, you know, because I couldn't figure that out. And so auditing is really just, again, it's ensuring that you know what you know what you're doing. It allows us to see to define or say locate opportunities for us to educate, or for the educators to educate. But if you jump on the defense, or you want us to give you the answers all the time, then that's a whole child. That's a whole.
That's what they do. It's the defense mechanism. No, it's the defense mechanism. You're correct, because that's like when I was at when I attended Clayton State and I had to get tutoring for statistics. I couldn't understand statistics to save my freaking life. My instructor was a genius, and you know, this is an African guy. Shout out to Mr. Charles, because he was great, to be honest, really. But I just couldn't grasp. I could not grasp it, and I'm like, but what I had to do is, before I went to tutoring, I had to cover my research of what I either understood or didn't understand about the subject and present what my problems were. So they really honed in on where my issues were, and I was missing a critical step. So it was something that I was misreading or just overlooked. And I'm like, okay, so, all right, no, so now it makes sense to me. And it's the same thing in the coder aspect. When you're looking at an opno, like I said, I tell people not to tell me stuff because, you kind of bold to tell me that. But one coder looked at a particular diagnosis, and the diagnosis, the doctor named a specific condition. And if you look in the index, it guides you to a congenital condition for that specific name. But the coder went and veered and did something totally different. And so when I asked, I said, well, the diagnosis, the index leads you here, and you go into the tabular, it leads you here. Why did you choose that? I don't know. That's the answer. I know why. Because you didn't look. And then two, deciphering details. And I'll tell you what tripped her up, because the doctor said the patient had a particular condition related to that. So what she did is to look at the condition that prior to that, then didn't see the actual condition. And it's like, you missed that step. You didn't go a little further. The patient had this, but it's the reason why the patient had it is because they have this particular condition. So when it's integral to that and it causes us a cause and effect, you have to look at the actual. And he said that patient had a condition and it led you to a congenital code. But in you said you don't know. And I was like, baby.
That can't be your rationale.
Like, oh. Yeah, that's not. And then too, the auditing process too, audit the auditor. Again, I've always taught, I had one coder say, I didn't know I could do that. I said, no, I did that because when, when you started my work, I was like, okay, with this, and you was like, bam, I got you. I trumped you. Oh, okay. So let me shut up. You know what I'm saying? So it's nothing wrong with that. But I just feel like they don't go further enough, and they think just going half a mile is the half a way to your destiny. But if you go the full mile, you're there, and they need to start doing that. Instead of pointing fingers, because I hate it. I'm telling you, it's one of my pet peeves. Don't point fingers, don't blame. I can't stand it. And excuses. Those go out of the window for me. Because I say this, I can't say if I've worked this place and have accelerated beyond most of them, beyond all of them. They've been there longer than me. So I know it can be done because I had a hunger for it. I knew what I wanted to do. I had a drive. You have most of these people, you ask them, well, have you been able to access this particular, website since you've been out? No. Oh, okay. So you don't want to learn anything. Oh, okay. Got you. So, but when it comes time for your audit, you want to start screaming about your points because now you're on a write-up. It's your corrective action. But what happened? I had one coder do this. My God. Now we're given a time limit on which they can actually do a rebuttal. You want me to go back and look at stuff from January? You have lost your mind. I am not going to do that. So I'm not, because you had time to do a rebuttal. So now that you're at a critical point in your career where you could possibly lose it, you want me to go back and help you? No. No. What were you doing? I need you to put the shopping bag down and stop shopping online. And do your work. So it's like I said, it's all about that. When they get to that point where they start getting written up and all this other kind of stuff, it's like, okay, I need some help. No, you're not gonna come to me because I've tried to help you. Last but not least, I had one coder to me. This I actually was working in this particular body of work, and this coder was out, and it was like just trying to help and trying to help you out, and then I saw I saw an opportunity to educate. The coder because the case was coded wrong, and I was working to try and prevent a denial. So what I did is I simply sent it to ask, hey, just look at this case. It was coded incorrectly. It should have been XYZ. And immediately this person thought I was attacking them. And I was like, I'm not attacking you. I'm just letting you know because I think that yes, that's my job. If I see something wrong, I will feel obligated to but I shouldn't correct it. I want you to look at it and you to make the correction, because our goal is what? To keep the claims from being denied. So I operate out of an educational capacity almost 24/7. It's like automatic for me. So, but at some point I need to stop that, because it had affected me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to have this person, throwing me under the bus or antagonizing me because I'm just trying to do my job. And I straight up said, you're making it very difficult for me to do my job. And I never have been to a point like that in my life. And after that, it was like, okay, I'm sorry. But it's not that I'm trying to hurt anybody, because I come from a place of help. Always, every job I've gotten into, no one was there before me to teach me anything. So in these jobs I've had to fill, I've had to actually build a library, build rules, regulations, or whatever policies there were. Just like the position I was in before, there was nothing there, but now there's information there, because if I'm gone, the next person to say, hey, here's a library of X, Y, and Z, created by this previous person that I can use as a reference. So that's what I do. I have to leave these little footsteps and these little paths where I'm going, so that if you need some help, it's always going to be there.
And that is exactly, coding has become, I don't want to say it has become, because coding, it stays the same except for the changes that come every year, as they've always, came. Yeah. I think maybe perhaps processes have changed. People's stress levels are heightened now. And so they feel attacked when you point out something that they could correct. They feel attacked. And I will admit that, well, let's say not that I'm perfect, but
you
people
would nah.
But anyway, when people would point out something that I did incorrect, I would automatically jump on defense. I wouldn't respond as most people, or in an example that you provided. I may respond in a defensive I have my defense mechanism on lock. As I've gotten older, and wiser, it's like someone asked me, why did you do this? You know what? I was like trying to fish for, you know what? I don't even know why I did that. I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Because it's like, why am I going to sit here and try to fish up an excuse, or I don't say I lie to cover my, if I don't know, I don't know. I don't know. But I'm also, I don't know. I don't know. And as I also know, like you said, because I've worked in different areas of coding, I know where I want to be at this moment. And I know I don't want to be a sweatshop coder. So you know me, look, I quit. You know what I'm saying?
See?
Don't try.
When you told me that yesterday, I was like, oh, I remember you did. Yes, you did do that. You did. And it's so funny because, like I said, everybody has and you brought up something very important, because defensiveness. I'm going to be honest with you. I used to be defensive, literally, because I don't know why. Well, I take that back. I do know why, because it's not that I felt that I was perfect. I felt that what I did was right. And at that time, I didn't want to accept that criticism that it wasn't right. So in order for me to grow, I had to take the hard knocks of it. I had, and I was like, I was asked a question by one of my doctors that I was doing some contract work for. And, I began immediately to defend myself. And she says, I'd like for you to come into my office. I could have a talk with you. I said, okay, fine. So I come into her office and she says, you know what, Joanne, I really like the work that you do for me and blah, 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 blah. But why are you always so defensive? And I said, I'm not. I caught myself right in the middle of getting ready to say I'm not. And I said, you know what? You're right. I said, I think it just comes from me I'm trying so hard and I don't want to mess up. She said, but it's okay. It's okay to mess up. It's just what you need to start doing is acknowledging that. Learn from it. And when she told me that, it really, really opened my eyes, even though I've been in this field for, 30 plus years or whatever, it opened my eyes to say, you know what? Okay. So I thought about that on the drive home. She says, be willing to be wrong. And I was like, okay, so that's good. Then, okay, that helped. Then I became in this, got promoted here, what I'm doing now. And I had my supervisor, the manager, director, actually supervisor, whatever, director, tell me the same thing, manager, tell me the same thing. Stop defending yourself. Be confident in that. And I was like, okay. So I found myself at some point even doing it again. So I've gotten out of that habit to learn that working with different people, you have to train your brain to work with different people because the personalities are so different. So I had to do a lot of work on me. So just like one of the coders, and it was funny because somebody, again, trying to throw me under the bus is just relevant, because sometimes when I see the bus coming, I'm just going to lay down and let you hit me, because I'm not getting ready to go through this with you, because it's irrelevant. A person found a case that I coded. Now, I'll admit, I looked at this particular case and I just coded the case, but it was a secondary diagnosis. However, the diagnosis could not be used as a primary in that capacity. And so the coder found it and sent it to the manager. Okay, what you trying to do? Get me in trouble? Because you could have sent it to me and said, hey, Joanne, I saw this case and it was coder. So when the manager, sends it to me, hey, Joanne, can you give me a call? I said, sure. Well, the coder found this. I said, okay. I made a mistake. Let me go ahead and correct that. I said, yes, it does not belong in the capacity. It was, even though it was a secondary diagnosis, it was primary on a claim. And I said, okay, it's not primary, but I'll change it. And I went ahead and acknowledged it. I said, I looked at the guidelines and I was like, yeah. So I said, thank you, coder, for finding this. Thank you. It's like, what are you trying to do? I said, and I know a person's angle. So when I said, you know what, I'm not going to let this person get to me, because I already know what you're trying to do. It's not working, because you're the one selling your audits, not me. You know what I mean? So I just look, and I'm like, we all make mistakes. I'm not going to defend why I did that. I will be honest with you. I probably overlooked it, and I shouldn't do that, because I get on the coders so much at looking at things. So I have to start practicing taking my own advice and practicing good behavior on me. So I get coding and I'm working, and it's like that happens,
Coding is an ever learning role or industry or
it is.
job.
It's a revolving, yes.
Yeah, you will be learning forever. You will never get to a point where you say, I know all there is to know about coding. That won't happen, because like you say, it's continuously evolving.
Yeah,
and so
it keeps changing. You can't get used to stuff, because every October we got changes coming, and then they tell you, oh, we got rid of 60,000, but we added 125,000 more codes. And I'm just exaggerating, but that's just how it is. ICD-10 now supposed to be more specific, but you can't get the doctors. And that's another episode too, talking about these doctors, because number one, if we're listening to them and they're not giving us information, well, I don't know why coders are afraid to query them. So that's definitely another one, because that's one of my pet peeves.
That's about 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes right there.
Girl, we can't do that. But with the ever changes with ICD-10, we have ICD-10, CM, we have PCS, and we have CPT. So those three, with PCS thrown in the mix, there's constantly going to be changes every year. So everything is not going to be the same. And so you're going to be learning. So you have to train your brain to learn. And that's another thing too. These coders have to also know is about anatomy and physiology. Some of y'all don't know. I've coders now, the field that I'm coding right now, we're looking for a cardiac coder. And if you don't know the heart, now I coded cardiac back in the early 90s. So I had to refresh my brain. I just pulled my book out and I'm like, okay, let me read the op note and let me see where they're going. I didn't have to have someone give me a tete-a-tete on the vessels of the heart, the right and the left ventricle, the right and left atrium, and, the right pulmonary vein and the aorta. I didn't need to. I just went and pulled a diagram of the heart. Okay, this doctor did a heart cath. Okay, let me read the code. We have coders now. Well, right now we're looking for a cardiac coder, but they can't. These coders can't. I don't have confidence in them that they can do it, and that's bad. It's very bad. And I want to be able to have that confidence, but stop scaring yourself, because you throw something at me, Joanne. I had to actually work with the cardiac coder that they had for 8-9 years. I had to teach her stuff because she could. So it was like, you've been doing this for 8-9 years and you don't know this.
And see,
and that's.
I was gonna say, I will pause. She's not even listeners. She's not credentialed in cardiothoracic Coding.
None.
But you see how she just rolling out this stuff.
rolling out stuff, and I'm not gonna say what kind of financial damage it caused, but it did. And so, like I said, if you don't know what you're doing, and then too, that's what I'm actually, to be honest with you, that's what I'm working on. My next certification is cardiac, because I really like it. So I do like cardiac coding. And my next biggest challenge is going to be interventional radiology, because working with the compliance department, working with compliance told me that, hey, for those specialties, you need to be certified in neurology, interventional radiology, and cardiac. Those are the three. He said, because coding this body of work, it's very, very detailed. You can miss some things. So even with me, I've had my work audited by an outside company. I was like, oh my God, I was so excited. I missed one code, but I was like, oh my God. So I look forward to getting my audits. I don't care as long as you know how to audit, but if you're going to tell me that if you're going to tell me, hey, Joanne, you missed this, you picked this up, or you don't pick that up, I'm willing to learn from that. I will take that audit tool, put my notes on there. And that's another thing I teach the coders too. Take your audit, use it as an audit tool, make the corrections, make the notes, ask the questions. That's what you do. What they'll do, oh, I failed my audit, but the auditor, the educator told me to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, but you're the ultimate coder. You're the ultimate coder. You are the one that work falls in your lap, in your work queue. So because the coder educator told you this, because what I'll do now, I'll say, I would look at this right here. And I'll say, just look at this. I'm not telling you to do it, but look at that. So when you point me in that direction, but if I still feel it doesn't work, okay, she gave me that, but I just really don't feel it fits my scenario. Let me look elsewhere. That's what I enjoy the feedback and the camaraderie that we can have back and forth. But when I say look at this, and then you go code it, and it's like, if it comes back wrong, oh well, I didn't tell you. I just said look at it. that's gonna be my defense mechanism. And I hate to get fifth grade on you, but I'm gonna tell you, well, I told you to look at this. So no, but I try my absolute best to make sure I'm giving the best information. Girl, I have so many coding books. It's ridiculous, but I love it. I have all my specialties. I just actually ordered my ICD-10 PCS, the one with answers to 2021 version. I just ordered that today. I just got the 2021, but the 2021 is what I got too, and I really love it. That's the book I read like a Bible. So my next hunt is looking
Go ahead.
It is. It's wonderful. It has great case scenarios in there. So I love it. And like I said, I'm always willing to learn. My next journey is looking for a CPT book, because the CPT needs to do better. I'm just sorry. I'm just literally sorry, because you have to buy another book to interpret the book that you have. And then the little notes that come in under the CPT code, you have to have access to CPT assistant, and everybody doesn't have access to CPT assistant. I do, because I'm an administrator, but no, it's just so bad. It's so much information. It's like they need to have a book to break down the actual codes and break down the actual meanings, because it's just ridiculous. I like ICD-10 PCS coding better, to be honest. I like PCS coding.
I like it too. I like it as well.
Yeah, it's very diverse. I really love it. And there's a code pretty much for everything, but for CPT, it's not. So I'm looking for the next couple of years for them to do better and to come with more codes, because it's just ridiculous to interpret the way they do. But I don't know. Like I said, we learn so much in this field, and it's ever changing. And that's why I tell coders, go to your chapter meetings. Attend online webinars, do everything you can to fill your brain with that knowledge, because it's going to come down to you. It's not going to be the educator, because I don't want to be under attack all the time, because it's my responsibility to make sure that they're absolutely learning what they're supposed to learn, but it's also to the responsibility of that coder to pick up a book in their spare time and read and learn, break down, whatever they need to do, because I'm constantly doing it. And they're wondering where I get their education material. It comes out of your books that you're reading. I'm not pulling it out of the sky. I'm not going over here and pulling it out of left field and saying, here's this. No, because guess what? If I'm giving you wrong information, then I'm held accountable for that.
Exactly. And so that also goes into, like you said when we first started, you have to self-invest. You have to invest in yourself. You worked hard, you studied hard to pass the certification. You worked hard to apply for the roles that you have. You need to maintain that. Like I know I made my comments about the certifications, and I still stand on that, about getting
it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, because I feel like too.
You're using them, and then because again, don't grab them for validation, because you want to have a lot of letters behind your name. Make sure that you have an end goal in mind with those certifications. Like for example, you're coding already in these areas, so you just want that certification or that credential, because it's just going to solidify what you've already been doing. Whereas someone may have never coded ever, and you're not doing. I'm gonna say you're doing it out of lack of confidence in yourself.
Exactly.
That's what I mean when I say, like, don't go out here and get all these certifications. You're doing it out of lack of confidence in yourself.
Right.
And then, like you said, once we say the bumper meets the road, if that's the term, your bumper ain't meeting the road. So
your bumper is still sitting in the road.
And, and that's not good. It's not good. But
it isn't. And I said that to say, because coding in this body of work, I was like, it was helping the coder because they were transitioning over from one department to our department, and I had to go shadow the coder. So was asking, I've heard about the coder, and she's been in this field for a long time, so I was looking forward for her to teach me things. So when I'm looking at this particular procedure the doctor is doing, it was an EP ablation. So I was like, what is this? And I saw these acronyms, and I'm like, okay, so I've got to go pull out my cardiac book, because I have an interventional radiology cardiac book, and I have a coding strategies book. And I'm like, okay, let me pull this out. But this is different. So I had to order another book, and I didn't mind ordering. It was like maybe $40. I didn't care, but it was going to help me. This coder and I ordered Dr. Z. Now, Dr. Z Zilowski is a interventional radiologist, and he's certified. He also is partnered with the AAPC. So I went ahead, and his books are like $300, $400, $500, but I found one from a person that was coding it for like $95, right? So I was like, let me get this book. So I subscribed to him online and get questions and things like that. So I was willing to learn. And I was asking this particular person, can you help me with X, Y, and Z? But they couldn't. And I'm like, okay, so I'm reading this particular op note, and I saw the person's codes. And I was like, you came up with these codes. How did you? I can't read the op note. It's confusing to me. I said, but you coded it. And that's, like I said, here we go again. So I had to actually take the op report and break it down from the terminology, you have to look at what CS means, which is coronary sinus. You have to look up the bundle of His, and they have all these terminology, RV, right? Ventricle, RA, right? Atrium. This, and I'm like, you couldn't read this. So I had to break it down. I took an actual image mirror of that document, and I broke it down in layman's terms. That's what I did. So this is the EP ablation, this is one, and this is the actual breakdown. So I have to understand, because it has to make sense to me. You can't apply a code, and guess what she did code from? She coded from the procedure note, the title. That's what she did. That's what she did. So when I asked her, I said, well, how did you come from the code? She says, oh, I can't understand that. Really? I just code from the procedure title. Okay. How did and I'm like, no. So that's very dangerous. So that's why, and as I started to study it more, I'm like, oh, so you have a patient that came in with supraventricular tachycardia. So they're trying to just actually to motivate the muscles within the heart to make the heart beat, because the heart is of course an electrical system. So I had to study the electrical system of the heart, and I had to look and see what the EKG was. I was up doing this stuff, and I was like, oh, this is cool. So now I know how to do it, and I like doing it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get started about it, because one of the fields of specialty of doing cardiology, there's a lot of money in that. Yeah. So if I ever want to do something on the side, this is what I'm thinking from another aspect too. If I want to make a little money on the side, doing some little cardiology coding, this is what I'm going to do. So sometimes this coding can be intimidating to people. I look at everything as a challenge. I literally do. Everything is a challenge to me. If it's intimidating, good, bring it on, because at least I can say I tackled this beast and I'm trying it. But you have a lot of people that don't want to do that.
That fear, that fear. I mean, like, and not to talk about what I'm doing. Like for me, what I'm doing with Abraham Medical Coding Coach, I'm tripping. I mean, but it's exciting. you know. And so like, okay, I know there's people out there who've written blogs and, you know, podcasting about, I don't know, I'm gonna say podcasting, but I like how we're talking about, just talking about like just coding. We're not like talking about codes, you know. And it's like, I did that one thing with the surgery book. And like I said, it was my first time. And it was like, okay, I did it. I took a challenge. Oh, well, let me talk about this. You know, well, let me do this. I want to fucking dabble into this. Or let me dabble into this. But what I'm finding is the more things I dabble into, as it may start off as a coding thing, it may open up something else, you know. And it may be totally unrelated to coding, but it opened up something else for me to, I won't say pursue, or to like tap into, like, So like, for example, when I first started, when I became a government name company, you know, because I was, I won't say.
And congratulations again on that. That's very awesome. That's awesome of you.
So one of the things, like, so, you know, people will call and it's like, okay. And what I found is that a lot of people, now there are some who truly want like coding, but there's some who just needed somebody to talk to. Like they had like it was more of a mental health thing. Was like they experienced some type of circumstance and they needed somebody to listen to them, or they wanted to be heard. And so I'm like, okay, so you on my business line and you don't want coding? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you just want somebody to listen to. So that spawned me, okay, well, how many other people just need somebody else? So mental health, you know, I talk about mental health and Motivational Monday, you know, because of out of other individuals that have issues, they just need somebody to listen to or to be heard. And another reason why I kind of started the Motivational Monday. So again, the same facility where you and I work, we used to do this thing where we have to post a motivational quote or something each morning. And I love that was the favorite part of my job, you know, when it was my turn.
I carry that on. Believe you me, I carry that on. So thank you. Awesome. Yes, we do carry that on. Yes, we do keep that on. Me and our other colleague, we do that. So that's great to do that. I love that. I'm glad that you started that, but we've kept that going.
I didn't start it, but you know, it was like, y'all do it. And that was like my favorite part of the job. You know, so I was like, what's that? I was like, I'm ready to log off, you know. But that also, like, especially when the other colleagues like, girl, you know, that's a good one. That's a good one. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I didn't think about that. Yes, you know. So I think that was that person's favorite part of the job too. And so it's like, okay, like, shoot, I'm like, we're gonna motivate some people and we're gonna tackle this mental health. Probably, and as I'm talking, like, anyway, I'm rambling on, but talking.
Okay, it's called health, rhetoric. So good, go.
We're going rhetoric, but it allowed me to do the mental health and motivational podcast. So I'm out here trying to help other people. And so, like, I have guests that come on, like those who bring in hope and motivation, mental health therapists. Not realizing, shoot, I'm getting therapy. Because I need therapy.
But that's the point. That's it. You're killing two birds with one stone. You hear me? You're killing two birds with one stone. You bringing folk on to motivate other people, and also you getting fed too.
Like,
you feel me?
Like, okay. So so it's like, and it's like you giving other people a platform. You know, like, say, I'm getting therapy or motivation. The listeners are getting therapy and motivation, but also giving those people who are providing that information a platform to reach other people. And so again, with code rhetoric, like I said, I know that there are podcasts out there that are specific to just talking about coding, like you said, the specifics of coding. But let's talk about let's have that water cooler conversation about coding.
Right.
Child, this because, like, let me tell you what's really going on in the industry. You know, And so
and you have a lot of people that won't do that though, because they want to cover it. And like I said, the industry is not ugly, but it's the ugliness is out there. It is, but the ugliness is there, and you have to learn how to deal with what the good, the bad, and what the ugly. You just do.
And so,
you do.
So when you step out, as you say, as you investigate, you challenge yourself, you start learning things other things that you probably were interested in, or you never knew you were interested in, and it may take you to your passion, like you say, to your passion. And it's like,
that's right.
That's what you studying, like the cardiothoracic, and you were doing it, and it piqued your interest, and now you're pursuing, you're going further with it. So that's one thing we need to step out. But like I said, that's another conversation for another time, because I really wanted to come back and we talk about that whole thing with the communication aspect, where we are afraid to talk to the providers, the people who actually did the stuff. We got to talk to them people. We have to figure out why they did what they did in order for us to do what we do. Joanne.
Yeah, we definitely are, because they can be intimidating if you let them. And that's the thing. That's if you allow them to. I don't let them do that. But yes, that's going to be a great one, because that's another intimidation factor. I think my years of working with surgeons, and I'll say, and I'll end it on this note. I worked as a medical assistant, because that's how I first actually started out. Then I was working in this clinic, and there's one doctor, oh my God, he was just so horrible to me. He was throwing charts and stuff and yelling at me, and I'm sitting here going, why is he doing this? Why is he doing this stuff to me? So I'm like, okay, okay. So then it got to a point where I was just tired. And I said, Doctor, I can't say his name, but I still remember it to this day. And I said, I am not going to stay here and let you keep treating me like this. I don't understand what I did to you. I just would start going off. I just was hysterical in front of everybody. And I was like, I had to catch myself, and I started crying. I went into the room. He came in the room and he said, I'm sorry. He said, I'm sorry. And I just looked at him and I was like, okay. So after that, I was like, oh, he's like, hey, Joanne, how you doing? I don't know what, like I said, it's just, you have some doctors who are just mean and they intimidate you, because I was like, I didn't do anything to this doctor. He asked me to set up a tray. I set up the tray and draped the patient, did what he did, kept the room clean, changed it out. I did everything this doctor did, throwing charts at me. So I don't know if it's some personal, because like I said, I try to get into a personal aspect of it. And I think a lot of people do take it personal. And I also have to tell us another thing that's important in the job. It's not personal, it's professional. You have to understand the field of medicine that we're in and what we're dealing with. So we're not here to be cutesy. We're here to get the right information and ensure everybody gets it, but you can't take it personal. I think that's too, a lot of the coders, tend to take things more personal than they do from a professional aspect. And then, they internalize, and then it causes them undue stress. So yes, definitely a nice little conversation for queries, and then to, that intimidation factor, because, I have a sister, my sister is an OBGYN, and she's about to retire. When I tell you it's so hilarious oh my God, she's so funny. She says, I don't ever want to deal with patients again. I'm sorry, I hate it. And I was like, but that's the thing that you always said you wanted to do when you were little. I know. I can't stand it. People are so stupid. XYZ is so funny. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to literally just do a blog of the things that she went through as a OBGYN, the deliveries, the patients, because she's so straightforward. But yes, doctors go through a lot too. And we have to also consider the human aspect of them as well. We do. They're human. They're the reasons why we're employed. And I think that's why a lot of people don't understand that, because you got to learn how to talk to them. So yes, that's going to be our next talk, because we got some stories.
Okay. Well, I got to go into my repertoire. Well, Joanne, I thank you for coming on and having this conversation with me or with our listeners about coding. Just keeping it real. So until the next time, you have a great day. And y'all continue to listen. Thanks for inviting me, Tam. You're welcome. And y'all continue to listen to Code Rhetoric with Tam Talk. Until next time. Y'all have a great day.